If you've ever played Elden Ring, you've probably seen these blokes around the world. They're located in the underground areas of Elden Ring's map. And like me, you probably wondered, who the fuck are these guys? What the fuck are they doing in Elden Ring's lore? And what sort of significance do they have to the story at hand? A lot of theories have been thrown around, but today I think I do have the definitive answer. If you do enjoy this style of content, please let me know down below and leave a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel. Thank you so much everyone for 1.5 thousand subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the video. A lot of Elden Ring's story and From Software's stories can be brought down to visual storytelling. A lot of these games share their stories from the environment, which is very different to how stories are mostly told in today's gaming. Instead of being drip-fed and straight away given information, From Software allows you to make your own opinions, make your own speculation, and come to your own conclusion. And that is what is so special about From Software. The first point of visual storytelling we get is the fact that Nokron and Nokstella aren't actually the origins of these creatures sitting upon their thrones. We know this by the fact that these thrones are much older. My first point of evidence is, if you look at the thrones and then Nokron and Nokstella and the Eternal Cities, you'll see that they are very different in architecture. Not to mention the materials that all the Eternal Cities are made out of aren't used at all on the thrones. Instead, they are made out of chalky pillars that are located all around the Sophia River. Now, what's even more interesting is the ancestral followers actually use these for their nature rituals and their nature ceremonies. This makes me think, what is the property of this chalky pillars that make them use it? We get a hint of this in the Great Ghost Glovewort item description. It states, "Since times of old, large gloveworts were used to comfort heroic spirits, given in tribute to those who died the most glorious of deaths, in their hope their stories would become a legend." Now, this tells us so much. And given this is found right underneath a corpse that is adorned with dozens of medals that seem to be very ceremonious, and that there is multiple corpses and multiple things that have literally died praying and are stuck in stasis lying here, don't think after hearing that it's very hard to imagine who it is talking about in this instant. But something that really interested me was the fact that this same chalk-like material is also used in the very same chalk pillars that the ancestral followers actually use to revive these ancestral spirits, which then links back to the throne and keeping that spirit alive to make it a legend. It's all connected, and it's so fucking interesting. I believe that these ancestral followers had something to do with these giant sort of creatures that live on these thrones for eternity. We know these corpses and thrones are old, like really old, especially considering the Glovewort description we just read, since times of old. Now that's normally associated with the very first ages we know about, like Plaxidus's reign and the beginning of the Golden Order and the Crucible. That is what is described as old. So it might even be pre that. We don't know, but in my eyes, that is what it's implying. Before, I think me and virtually everyone else who's been looking into the Elden Ring lore thought the ancestral followers were there because they were primitive and they wanted to stay there because that's what they felt comfortable with. But now that we look into it more, I think there's so much more to that. What if these ancestral followers are of diluted blood, or are of this civilization, and their descendants, and then their descendants had children, and then they have just stayed in that area because that is their home? Look at Elden Ring's map. If Nokstella and Nokron weren't there at all the places the ancestral followers are would be linked up together. It's just one big area. The reason we don't access it like that is because it's been built over. All the entrances, all the pathways that would have been there eons ago have been built over by the Eternal Cities. If you take that all away, you've just got one homeland, one country. Hell, perhaps they aren't even descendants. You could also go with the storyline that these pillars that they use as a catalyst are actually ancient, like really ancient, and they were gifted to them by these creatures. Perhaps a pact, like we know the demi-humans, they formed a pact with Rare Lucaria, and part of that pact treaty was that they were given staffs that required no intelligence and they could use sorceries. Perhaps it's similar to that. Only instead of staffs, it would have been these chalk-like pillars, which had the ability to commune with the dead and sort of bring them into being again. Their magical properties are unknown, but they communed with the dead, and these were most likely given as a pact offering to the ancestral followers. We also don't ever see these animals that they revive ever anywhere else. We don't see mention of them or any images of them. The closest thing we get is the fact that they have sproutings which are linked to the crucible. Perhaps this indicates that this sort of group originates from the age of the crucible, or at the very least these creatures were born in the age of the crucible. That doesn't mean that their civilization actually was thriving in the age of the crucible. Hell, it could have been one of the last ones to be surviving. It's all up in the air because we don't actually have all information that we could use. I mean, hopefully in the DLC we'll get some more on this. We can only cross our fingers, really. Now, this is very, very heavy speculation, but we know that the Scarlet Rot corrupts, slowly taking over. What if the Scarlet Rot Outer God was a perfect synonym for this? What if, at one point in time, the Scarlet Rot Outer God was simply a water Outer God, but eventually, like it does to Melania, it corrupted itself, becoming the Scarlet Rot Outer God? That would explain everything. Not to mention the architecture that is found in the Lake of Rot is very, very, very similar to the ones used on the thrones. Perhaps, when it changed, a few of its followers followed it, but some didn't, staying behind, which led to these thrones. Something that's really important to mention is that everything in Elden Ring can be traced back to one omnipotent being. This one omnipotent being is called the One Great. The One Great is the precursor to the Outer Gods. VatiVidya made a really, really, really great secrets video yesterday, and one of his points was that Melania is directly above the Lake of Rot, and that the Lake of Rot might be the reason why Melania is drowning in water, as it is flooding. I'll get to the significance of that now. You see, when the water from the Lake of Rot goes upwards into Melania, it turns into regular water. Why? Why does it turn into regular water? I believe that for some reason, when it reaches the surface, it purifies the Scarlet Rot water. Do you want to know something else? The Scarlet Rot water we see at the Lake of Rot is the only place we see that potent Scarlet Rot water. Everywhere else just has specks of it, not really as potent, but it's so much different looking in the Lake of Rot. The enemies are so much different. They're all consumed. The whole place is fully consumed. Not even in Caelid do we see this water. Do you want to know what the cherry on top is? So I'm sure you've probably seen the Claymen. They litter Sophia River. Now, all the item descriptions we have of them tell us that they are from an ancient civilization, that they are searching for something. What they are searching for is unknown to us, but we do know they are actually quite similar in size and shape of the corpses that have died praying inside the throne room. What's even more interesting is that the only two sorceries they use are bubble sorceries. How are bubbles created? Water. Water is their outer god. Like the Formless Mother, like the Greater Will, like the Fell God, like the Blood Star, the Water Outer God gave its subordinates powers. Something else interesting is the fact that the Nox, who just so happen to be the Eternal City's inhabitants, worship the moon. The moon works in tangent with water. In our world at least, it controls how the tides move. And so when you consider the fact that the Nox built their city upon the ruins of a city that was devoted to a water outer god, it really all clicks into place. Yes, they were banished underground, but they were guided to this location by their outer god. Not to mention that Mohg also sets up location here. Coincidence? I think not. They all know this and they have been communed with. The Formless Mother we know communed with Mohg. Why can't the other outer gods? We don't know how the Silver Tears are created, we just know they are. but when you look at their appearance, they have the shine of the moon, but also the fluidity of water. And then they also share the same properties as Mercury. They can become hard and they can become liquidy. And then you think, why is this the case? It's because the two outer gods' powers were fused together. That is my opinion, but that makes the most sense to me, which then leads and links everything full circle back round to each other. Elden Ring truly is amazing, and its story is masterfully crafted, and I will never get bored of it, because there is so much stuff hidden under dozens and dozens of haystacks. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. I really do hope you enjoyed the video, as I bloody loved making it. It was a blast. I haven't talked about the Nocron and Noxtella and the Eternal Cities or the Nox before on this channel, so it was really refreshing to do something so different than what I normally do. Anyways, enough of me rambling on. I do hope you have a great rest of your day, and yeah, may you all find your worth in the waking world. Goodbye everyone.